together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together, yeah, in the name of love.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that fabulous welcome this morning. Lauren Shealy is in the house. Always a favorite. Martha, Scott, and Nick are also our fabulous band. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Trish Morris. I serve as your associate minister here. So welcome this morning. We knew if we waited till 10:05, we'd have a lot more people, and here you are. And also welcome to those of you who may be watching online. We know that there are many of you who do that, and so we welcome you as well, however you are joining us this morning. If you are new to us today, be sure you stop by the welcome desk. There's a welcome packet with some information about us and a gift bag for you. We'd love to know more about you and be able to follow up with you. You can also do that online if you're watching online on our website, unitydenver.org. New to Unity tab and connect with us. We'd love to know more about you as well. So, however you're here, thank you for being here and welcome. I want to tell you about a few things coming up right upon us. Today at 11:15, as always, for those of you watching from home, particularly with young people, Natalie Simons, our youth and family minister, does a lesson every week, about 15 minutes. They're fabulous on Facebook or YouTube. So tune into that. Tune your young people into that at 11:15 today. It looks like the topic is Santa's Workshop. Right. Just in time. I might have to tune in, see what's happening with Santa. And then on Christmas Eve, it is next week. Here we go. 6 p.m. we'll be doing our service live. You can also join us, obviously, online. But hopefully as many of you who feel comfortable will be here as well. So that's at 6 p.m. on Friday night. And then we head into the new year. We have our annual Burning Bowl ceremony. That's on New Year's Eve at 7 p.m. And that's a great opportunity to sort of really get clear about what you want your new year to hold and what you want to let go of. And so that's what we focus on in that ceremony, that service, is really focusing on what we need to release to move more fully into our new year, to be the best version of us we can be. And so if that speaks to you, please join us at 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Now, you need to kind of be here to have your special paper. So you can watch online, but I'm just saying you might want to be here. Also in the new year, Deb Roth, a former member, actually still a member, I haven't seen her in a while, but she offers, this is her third year of offering a visioning board workshop. That'll be on the 8th. It's so tiny. That's my work. Saturday, January 8th from 9 to 1:30 p.m. So that's another way you can sort of powerfully look into your new year and what you want to express and see and vision. So all of that information and registration is online at unitydenver.org. Check that out. And also in the new year, David Howard will be facilitating a class on spiritual economics, which is a great Unity standard for prosperity teaching by Eric Butterworth. It really expands into a consciousness of abundance. We often limit it to financial good, but that's really just one aspect. So it's a powerful book. It'll be a powerful series. You can check that out again online starting Tuesdays Oh, boy, I got to work on that. January.
11.
You can see it. January 11th for 8 weeks. Thank you very much. Getting old. No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
I think that is the extent of our announcements, so thank you for listening to me and following that. We hope you'll take advantage of those opportunities. And so now I just invite you to take a breath. I know we have a lot going on in one way or another, right? And so just allow yourself to arrive here, taking a breath, relaxing your physical body. I bring this crystal bowl to align with our heart chakras as you settle in, relaxing and opening.
Surely the presence of love is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of love is in this place.
So I just invite you to continue to relax into this presence of love that in truth is present wherever you are as an expression of divine love. And so again, just taking a breath, centering yourself in that knowing that right here, right now, you are an expression of divine love on earth. So we open up to that truth, and that truth that is permeating this time of the year, that the light that was brought into the world is expressing in and through you, in and through your consciousness. As you make room for it, become aware of it, claim it. And so you breathe in the power of that knowing that that is the truth of your life, expressing that light, that love into the physical realm. And as you connect with that and know that, you are abundantly supported, guided, and the aspects of peace and love and joy are made available in and through you. Connecting with that truth for ourselves, we also bring to this space those on our minds and hearts, those in our world who are in need of this knowing and this remembering. May they too feel the power of that truth expressing in and through their own consciousness, their own hearts, their own minds. And so we unfold all of creation in that conscious light of love, of peace, of joy. And we know that as we claim it, it expresses even more fully. And so it is, and so we let that be. Amen.
Good morning. If I haven't met you yet, I'm David Howard. I'm the senior minister here at Unity Spiritual Center, Denver. I just want to add my words of welcome on this Sunday before Christmas. It's hard to believe it's here, almost less than a week away. So I'm so glad you're here today. And I want to share with you a couple of things, actually. This is from Scripture. I want to share from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 23. And Matthew, the writer of Matthew, is quoting the prophet Isaiah here when he says, "Behold, The virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. And this next reading comes from Father Richard Rohr from this morning's, and thank you, Johanna, for prompting me to read it this morning. I'm just going to share a portion of it. He says, when we speak of Advent or waiting and preparing for Christmas, we're not waiting for the little baby Jesus to be born. That already happened 2,000 years ago. We're forever welcoming the universal Christ, the cosmic Christ, the Christ that is forever being born in the human soul and into history. Franciscan sister and theologian Ilia Delio invites us to consider Advent as a time to wake up to God's incarnate presence. The word Advent comes from the Latin adventus, meaning arrival or coming. But if God has already come to us, what are we waiting for? If God has already become incarnate in Jesus, what are we waiting for? And I think that's a really interesting question. We're called to awaken to what's already in our midst. I think Advent is a coming to a new consciousness of God. Already loving us into something new, into something more whole. That we're not, in a sense, waiting for what's not there. We're, in a sense, to be attending to what is already there. But the other part, I think, is that we think of Advent as God waiting for us to wake up. As if we're asleep in the manger, not Jesus. Jesus is alive in our midst. What if we're in the manger and God is already awakened in our midst and we're so fallen asleep, we're so unconsciously asleep that God is sort of looking for someone to get up and help bring the gifts to the world. Let's awaken to what God is doing in us and what God is seeking to become in us.
The world waits for a miracle. The heart longs for a little bit of hope. Oh, come, Emmanuel. A child prays for peace on earth, and she's calling out from a sea of hurt. Oh, come, Emmanuel. And can you hear the angels singing, glory to the light of the world, glory to the light of the world is here. The drought breaks with the tears of a mother. A baby's cry is the sound of love. Come down, Emmanuel. Oh, here's the song for the suffering. Here's Messiah, the Prince of Peace has come. He has come, Emmanuel. Glory to the light of the world.
The amazing Lauren Shealy. And Lauren will be back with us on Christmas Eve. Yay! So we're happy about that. Along with Adrian Robinson and Barrett Harper, who you heard on Easter, if you were here for our Easter service. So we're happy to have all of them. It's going to be a beautiful service. Hope you can come and join us either here or online. So I want to share with you something that Mr. Fillmore, Charles Fillmore, who was one of the co-founders of Unity, said back in 1911. He said, "Metaphysicians do not as a rule give much attention to the historical part of any celebration or observances. But it seems to me that in order to understand the metaphysical or spiritual side of a proposition, we should know something about its history, why we celebrate it and where the celebration originated, whether it came direct from spirit or is the result of evolution. A man said to me yesterday, 'Just what is the meaning of Christmas?' I began to explain to him that Christmas was a celebration of the birth of Jesus, and he said, 'Well, what is the Mass in there for? What has that to do with it?' I didn't know, and he didn't know. Then I began to look the matter up and found in the encyclopedia that in early times they didn't celebrate the birth of great men, but their death. And they said a Mass for the dead, and the celebration of Christmas originally was a celebration of the death of the martyr Stephen. And they celebrated it with a Mass. The word Mass means dismissal. It is the closing of a service, much as we would say a doxology. And then he goes on to talk about how then that began to be the celebration of the birth of Jesus. And he also says all history is opposed to his having been born at the time that we celebrate Christmas. So this is not the celebration of the birth of Jesus, nor did the early Christians so celebrate it. So as I was reading that and thinking about where we are in our calendar year, in the year of our trip around the sun, the solstice is coming up in a couple of days, the winter solstice. And the solstice is obviously, as you know, that time when in the northern hemisphere anyway, we experience the most darkness of the hours of the day. It was the darkest day, the longest night, so to speak. And then the earth begins to begin its, the rotation back toward the sun, right? And so the light returns after the solstice, and ancient people celebrated that. They recognized that they didn't understand, obviously that we do, how things were working, but they understood how dependent they were on the light of the sun. And so they experienced that time of darkness, and then when the light would begin to return, they celebrated that a few days after the solstice because the days began to be longer and it began to be warmer, gradually, of course. But they celebrated the return of that, and they celebrated the sun god, Sol, and they celebrated the Saturn, the god of harvest, a few days after the solstice. And so, as I was reading about it, it was not until the 4th century that Pope Julius I declared that December the 25th was to be the celebration of Jesus' birthday. Because Jesus also, in the Christian tradition, represents the return of light, the birth of light into the world. That light of hope, the light of salvation, so to speak, the light of possibility. Because the people at that time, when Jesus was born, were the Hebrew people, the Jewish people, as the song was saying, were longing for a Redeemer. They were longing for someone to come and restore them to peace and prosperity because they had been enslaved and their land had been occupied for centuries, generations. And so Jesus, to those people, represented that birth, the coming of the potential and possibility of the Messiah, Emmanuel, God with us, that would bring upon the earth the kingdom of God. And in unity, we do celebrate the birth of Jesus. We celebrate the birth of Jesus as our way shower, the one who was the example of the one who not only gave birth to that light, which we call the Christ, or as Father Rohr said, the cosmic Christ, the Christ that is ever being born in us and realized in us and lived as us. He was our example of how to do that. And we believe he taught us that we are that, right? So that's why we celebrate this Christmas. For us, it truly is a returning or a rebirth of light. But it is the light that is within us. The light that is our possibility of hope. The light that is our potential, that would lead us and help us move through whatever darkness we might be experiencing. You know, we can look around the world today and we can see all sorts of things to get sad about, to be depressed about. I was listening to an interview this week with Jane Goodall, and she's the author of a new book called The Book of Hope. And she said in this interview, she said, you know, people talk about thinking globally and acting locally. She said, I don't encourage people to think globally because when you think globally, it's easy to get depressed. When you look at all that is going on in the world, what we might consider to be darkness in the world, the poverty and the wars and the genocide and people leaving their homelands or countries because they don't feel safe. And we look around at our own city and see people experiencing homelessness, not knowing where their next meal is going to come from, not able to find shelter from the cold, and so many things that we can look at that can cause us to sometimes feel hopeless. And so she was saying, to bring that home to us, to think locally. And I took that to mean to recognize not only what's going on around us in our own city, but today. I want to acknowledge what's going on within us personally that might feel like some darkness, some challenge, some struggle. I know that everybody in the sanctuary today and everybody who is tuned in, wherever you are and whenever you are listening to this, is experiencing something in your life that can be a challenge for you. I know some of you have experienced loss in your life this year. Some of you have experienced the death of loved ones. Some of you have experienced other losses. Some of you have experienced illness. Some of you may have experienced some strained relationships in your family. Some of you may be experiencing whatever that is. It may just be for you, or for me, it may be just a sense of confusion. But I know you're experiencing something. How do I know that? Because you're in a human body. Yes, we're spiritual beings, but we are having this human experience, and that's part of this human experience. And so I think it's important for us to acknowledge that. And I know many of us would try to minimize that. You know, I do that myself. Well, I might be experiencing something, but it's not as bad as somebody else is experiencing. I don't have anything to complain about. But I believe we're not asked to compare my darkness, my my pain, my grief with somebody else's. It's yours. It's what you're experiencing. It's what I'm experiencing. It's what we're all experiencing on some level. But it's not about degrees. And it is our opportunity in that darkness, just as the people, the ancient people, experienced the physical darkness and were hoping for the return of light. And the light comes, just as the people were hoping for Jesus to be born, the great Messiah, to be born, to bring that light. Our opportunity is to be in that place, this idea of hope, the light of hope that lives within us, that can be awakened within us, even in that darkness. That is what is going to save us, free us, deliver us from whatever that experience, that life human experience is. And yes, I'm going to use my acronym again today. I'm changing it just a little bit. Because I believe that, all right, Elle, Sabrina, I'm coming down, just so you know, you can follow me or not. Because I know that very often I believe I've experienced it for myself, that especially in our New Thought, positive idea about life, yes, that's all great and good. We tend to deny when we're feeling something heavy. We tend to want to do this spiritual bypass thing, where I'm too spiritual to feel hurt. I'm too spiritual to feel fear or anger or grief. I have to be beyond that. But I don't believe that we are called to do that. I believe the H in this hope includes being honest. Being honest with ourselves about what we're experiencing. What level of, and I'm using this term darkness to just be an umbrella for our pain, our confusion, our grief, whatever it is you might be experiencing. To be honest with ourselves about that, and maybe be honest with another person, another trusted person. To honor that within ourselves. It is, whether we like it or not, we are in these human bodies, having these human experiences. And I believe these human experiences, whether we see them as that in the moment, are all opportunities for us to awaken more fully and completely to that light of hope, the Christ within us. So to honor that, to be honest about that, and again, to be humble about that. And what I mean by that is the recognition that you are, I know this is going to come as a shock, but you are not in control. I know that's hard for us to accept sometimes. Just like you're not in control of the orbits of the planets around the sun, you're not in control of what happens in the universe. You're not in control of everything that happens in your life. You have the opportunity to choose how you respond, but to be aware that I'm not in control, and I'm not in control of what other people do. Surprise, surprise, surprise. That's even harder to accept, isn't it? So honor it. Be honest about it and honor it, and to be humble about that. The O in hope for me now in talking about this idea of darkness is to be open. To be open to this idea that even in the darkness there is light. Even in the day and night that we experience, the light is still there, even though we might be living through the nighttime. We know that the light will come. So opportunity in this light of hope is to be open and receptive. Because unlike the seasons, unlike day and night, we don't know exactly when that light will dawn, when we're going through something heavy, some challenge in our lives. It may just, like a flash of light, we may have an awareness. But our opportunity is to be open to that. And I used this before, but this idea of being optimistic. I want to refer back to the interview with Jane Goodall. She was saying that hope is like you're in a dark tunnel, this darkness. But at the very opening, at the end of the tunnel, there's this bright star. And the bright star represents hope. And so it's about, even in the darkness, keeping our awareness focused as much as we can on that light at the end of the tunnel. And she also says that if you're in that darkness, if you're in that light, hope is not passive either. I've talked about this before. But if you're in the darkness, you're not sitting around waiting for the light to come to you. You're doing what you can to move toward the light. So be open, be optimistic. And I'm going to use another word, be obedient. I know that sounds odd, but I'm not talking about being obedient to some outside authority. Again, I did my own research. That the word obedient comes from the Latin obediere. Obediere, which actually means to listen, to hear, and not turn away. So being obedient, to listen to that inner voice. You might perceive it as a light, a star, the star that guided the shepherds and the wise men, a voice of an angel that spoke to Mary and Joseph in the story and appeared to the shepherds. To listen deeply, to hear, and not turn away from what we hear. To follow. Just like is represented in the story, following that light, following that voice, paying attention. So to be open, to try to be optimistic, to hold a vision for the possibility, and to be obedient to that inner light. When we're going through or experiencing some darkness, and I know none of this is always easy when we're going through a dark time in our lives. But all of it is important, and I'm not saying you have to do it all. I'm just giving you some ideas that came to me this week as I'm moving through maybe some of my own sort of questioning as I meditated on it. And the P for hope for me this week, first of all, is patience. Again, my time is not always the universe's time. If it were up to me, it would happen like that. I would just be in the light. I'd be through with any darkness, and it would just happen. Anybody with me on that? But it asks us to be patient. And that's hard sometimes. That's challenging, I'm telling you. To wait. I waited for the Lord, and he inclined unto me. I waited. And in that waiting, in that patience, binding up my mind and my heart, and that's also one of the ways to understand waiting is being in that place of really just binding up, connecting. So being patient, but also being persistent. And what I mean by persistent is being persistent in our spiritual practice. Because again, it doesn't always happen magically. I tend to believe that when we're in a dark place or when something is challenging for us, that it's important to even strengthen our spiritual practice, to pray more, to meditate more, to contemplate more, to study more, to be persistent in our practice of connecting, whatever that is for you. However you connect with that inner light, to be persistent in your practice. And another part of the P is perseverance. Keep going. Keep moving. Keep being present. Like Jane Goodall said, in that tunnel, you're going toward the light and doing whatever you can do. Just know that light, the light of the Christ within you, is your strength, is your ability to move. And I know sometimes when we were going through some dark places that we might be moving, we might take that step toward the light, and all of a sudden it's just kind of like we fall back. But our opportunity is to do our best to get back up. Take that next step toward the light. Do what we're called to do in the moment. As she said, in that tunnel, we're not waiting for the light to come to us necessarily. We're doing what we can in the moment to reach that light, to reclaim that light. Where am I? H-O-P-E. And then E for me is ease. Be easy with yourself. I know for me, when I am experiencing something, I'll just tell you. I don't know what it is about Fridays, but this Friday, I had an experience where I was triggered and I felt really angry. And I don't do anger very well. But I felt very angry. And what happens for me is that then I try to should myself out of the anger. I shouldn't think that way. I shouldn't feel that way. Anybody ever tried that? Has it ever worked for anybody? I find it didn't really work for me either. And then I was like, well, maybe I should have done something different. Anyway, all those shoulds and shouldn'ts, they say don't should on yourself. So don't should on yourself. But be easy with yourself when you're experiencing whatever the darkness might be for you. And anger, for me, feels like a dark place sometimes. But whatever that is, I invite us to be compassionate with ourselves. Because if you're experiencing grief takes as long as it takes. If you're experiencing any loss can bring up grief. If you're experiencing that, be easy with yourself. Give yourself empathy and compassion. Take a breath. Take a breather. I know I said it's important to keep going, but I didn't mean it's important just to push through whatever it is you're experiencing. Be with it. Cut yourself some slack. Be easy with yourself. But also another E is being earnest about your journey. Being earnest about finding the light and being the light. Ultimately, that's what we all want. Ultimately, that's our hope. No matter what level of darkness we might be experiencing, our hope is the return of the light. So if we can keep that as our primary intention, the return of the light, even though I'm going through this dark place, can I keep my intention set on reclaiming the light? And then finally, E is also for me again about enthusiasm. And I don't mean about, jumping up and down kind of enthusiasm, although it could be that. What I mean by that is this idea that is entheos. It is being in God, that as we talked about at the very beginning, and Lauren sang about, is this, come Emmanuel, God with us, God in us, God as us. So being in the awareness that in the absolute truth of your being, Emmanuel, the Christ, God with us, is here, present now. It's not something that is somewhere out there. It's here. And to do our best to keep ourselves in that awareness. And I love that song, anyway, that Lauren sang, The Light of the World, that people are waiting in darkness. We might be waiting in darkness. And I know it goes against some of what I talk about, prayer, but we can cry out for that. In our own pain, in our own fear, in our own anger, in our own grief, in our own suffering, we can cry out, come, Emmanuel. Come, oh come, Emmanuel. Come into my conscious awareness. Come into my mind. Come into my heart. Come into my body. Come into the very essence of my being. Awaken that which is already here. The light has come. As it says in the Gospel according to John, which is the gospel of the cosmic Christ, the light has come. The light that enlightens everyone has come into the world. And the darkness cannot overcome it. The light has come as you. And as you, and as you, and as you, and as you. And no darkness has the power to snuff out that light. So remember that as best you can as you are walking through, moving through your own darkness. You are the light. And that light of hope will see you through. I think that's it. Take a breath with me. As we breathe, allow that breath to be that which fans the flame of that light within you. Feel there in the center of your being, in your heart, that light of the world. And with every breath, that light grows stronger and brighter. That light is the flame of the holy that is you, expressed as you, given birth as you. In the manger of your own heart, that light of the Christ is born. The light of the Christ that is waiting eternally for you to awaken unto it in every moment. So now is the time. This is the moment. Awake, awake, O sleeper, awake. Receive now your light. And as we take a short time in the silence, with every breath, envision that light glowing brighter, fuller, bigger in you, coming alive more fully and completely. One hope, one heart, one love, one light, one child, one song, one star, one night. Heaven saw the world in darkness, a world of fear, a world of lies. Heaven gave the gift of who we are in a baby's eyes. One hope, one heart, one love, one light, one child, one song, one star, one night. And on this night and day, I'm so sorry. A world of fear, a world of light. And on this night we do remember a baby's eyes. Sorry. And on this night we remember a baby born, a gift that came. And on this night we remember heaven's gift still remains bright and clear and true. The light is here in you. You are one hope, one heart, one love, one light, one hope, one heart, one love, one light. Use that one, this one.
Standing next to the lights of a Christmas tree, the 6-year-old boy looked up at grandmother in disbelief, in stunned disbelief. Grandma said, "You know, little Jimmy," for the 6-year-old boy was me. And Grandma Odie had a lovely way about her, and she said, "Have you thought about what gift you're going to give Dad and Mom and your 2 sisters?" Give gifts? Me? Yes. You see, you're not a baby anymore like your sister Becky. And now you can be a giver of gifts. And I know you can think of something to make for Daddy and for Mommy and for your 2 sisters. It was a valuable Christmas lesson. 54 Christmases ago, began the understanding in me that to become more grown up, more developed, more mature, was to fully embrace being a giver of gifts. Because as Grandma Odie said, only babies receive and receive and receive without giving. It's a valuable lesson in all our lives. It's a principle of unity that we receive, and I'm so glad that the Butterworth book, Eric's book, Spiritual Economics is going to be taught, because the more we become spiritual, the more we grow in faith, the more we become generous. The better givers we become, and the more generous givers we become. That is part of the growing. And so, just wanted to share that. And I hope it deepens the meaning of the prayer that we're going to pray with Pastor David about giving and receiving and the spiritual economics of prosperity.
Thank you, Jim. So now is the time when we do have that opportunity. Those of you who are watching online, tuning in, there are options there on your screen for you to share with this ministry. Those of you who are here in the sanctuary, if you have the app, you can do it there. If you have cash or check as you leave, there are baskets in the back. So we are so grateful for the prosperity that we know is ours and that you share with us through your love. So say with me now our offertory blessing. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am thankful.
Oh, holy night, the stars were brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees, oh, hear voice raise we for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Christ is the Lord. Let ever praise we. O night divine, night, oh holy night.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Lauren. And I want to acknowledge our musicians over here, Martha on the piano, which was amazing as well. Thank you for that. Scott on the bass and Nick on drums. And we are amazingly blessed with great musicians, so thank you all for that. And thank you all for being here today. I hope to see you back here on Christmas Eve, this coming Friday. So I hope to see you here at 6 o'clock. And I hope to see you if you're tuning in online. Please tune in and join us at 6 o'clock. So I invite you now to stand as we say our closing prayer and sing our closing song. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. As light, I illumine my world. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. As love, I live empathy, understanding, and compassion for myself and others. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. As power, I co-create a world of love, unity, and equality for all. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. As presence, I stand in truth in every circumstance. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. And now join us as we sing our closing song.
Love can move this world to peace. It's a tide that begins with you and me.